Hey everyone, it's Ellis, and this is going to be the patch 8.18 notes rundown. It's actually not a very big patch, and in fact I'm probably not going to be talking about a lot of the changes for most of what I'm going to be saying, because the changes are actually not really that wholesome. Let's just go through everything really quick first, though. Atrox is getting a buff, Umbral Dash, 25% scaling to 30% scaling, so his late game is actually improved. Our World Ender bonus attack damage, 20 to 25% scaling to 30% scaling, so at rank 2, he gets 2.5% bonus attack damage on his R active. So it's not really going to do anything to Atrox. I'm a little bit surprised that he's actually not getting picked more often. I know a lot of people actually think that he's not that great of a champion, but I don't think that they understand exactly how to properly pilot him, and so that's the issue that Atrox is having. But anyways, Akali, R base damage decreased. R perfect execution, 120 to 240 scaling to 100 to 200 scaling. This amount of damage removal off of her ultimate isn't going to stop Akali from being such a powerful pick and such a versatile pick. And so in that regard, I think that the numbers are gentle enough to not cause too big of an impact for her. And I like that Riot didn't actually do anything else to her, so that's okay. Braum, base health decreased, 576 to 540, so basically he's losing an auto attack. The auto attack is, I mean, it can be felt, but again, stuff like this very rarely prevents a champion from being pickable, or being picked, because there's so many ways to go about such changes, unless these type of changes, I think, occur in a lane like top or mid. You don't ever really feel the impact of such a thing. And the reason that I say that is because top lane and mid lane has a little bit of a different dynamic for how level 2s and level 3s can play out due to a lot of the matchups. So when you think about certain champions that have had similar base health changes in the past and how it impacts them, it's mostly because of the way that the minion waves are interacted with at levels 1, 2, and 3, and why that can play such a big part in the lane and how it can affect the first recalls. When we're talking about a bottom lane where you have option to skew the matchup in your favor because of your AD carry, or depending on what color you're on, or depending on how you want to choose to play out the initial levels, or what your jungler is going to choose to do early on, etc. I think that these type of changes are less noticeable than in top and mid. Kai'Sa, passive damage decreased at later levels. Don't really care. 15 to 20% targets missing health at levels 1 to 18, changed to 15% of targets missing health at all levels. Doesn't really matter. This isn't what's making Kai'Sa be picked. It doesn't matter about her tank busting prowess. That's, again, just... It's a nerf that's thrown in here that's not going to impact anything. Maybe in some cases we'll actually see a champion fall late game a little bit sooner than they would have. Maybe, in fact, even a Kai'Sa lives with one auto attack. But I think that in the majority of cases, it's not going to be a meaningful change, and so it's sort of whatever. I like that they're not... the nerfs that they are putting out this patch, like on Akali and like Kai'Sa, they're not that extreme, and they don't actually really change too much of the game overall. Like, this is a change that realistically at early levels and stuff, you're not going to feel it whatsoever, especially because you only really will feel it super ultra late game, right? Because of the nature of how this scales. So you're not going to feel it that much. The Akali thing, I mean, you'll feel it at level maybe rank 1, or like this, but the way that Akali is going to go in mid game, you're not going to feel it, so that's okay. Lucian, Q damage ratio increased at later ranks. Damage ratio 0.6 to 1.0 bonus attack damage scaling to 0.6 to 1.2 bonus attack damage scaling. Good. I do believe that's a buff. You know, we don't get those around here. But anyways, Renekton, empowered E damage increased, empowered E armor reduction increased at early ranks. So the fact that he has a way to scale faster is really nice. So the Slice and Dice empowered damage is buffed up a little bit. However, the real big change is the empowered dice armor reduction. So the unfortunate thing here, though, is you have to really look at what is this actually doing for Renekton. Because if Renekton was taking Electrocute in the past, this damage is still not making up for the fact that just a few patches ago, had Renekton been taking Electrocute, been taking Sudden Impact, been taking, you know, whatever else, he's still not going to be doing as much damage at certain points. That's just the way that works. So yes, he's getting buffs, but you can't forget that something just happened to runes that he was taking just a few patches ago. And so when you're seeing these numbers and you're seeing that he's receiving these buffs and it means that he's going to currently deal more damage, it doesn't change the fact that I don't know the exact math on hand. Hopefully, like Freak in his patch rundown goes over something like this. You have to wonder, well, if Renekton a few patches ago wasn't being picked and he had a little bit more oomph back then due to the nature of the runes, how much does this actually impact him? Now, I do think that the damage is likely going to be slightly higher. Very, very slightly higher. The problem is that the damage loss at late game, all the way, right, is going to naturally be lower. And so there's still going to be a fundamental problem. So it helps him reach his mid-game spike faster, and he has a faster wake-up, I think. And so that's what's going on for Renekton. Does this mean that he's going to get picked come Worlds or something? No. Rise. Empower W root duration decreased. W rune prison 2 seconds to 1.5 seconds. This is actually really obnoxious. I think this is too heavy of a nerf. So we talked about the Kaisa nerf and we talked about the Atrox nerf. I think that the 0.5 seconds off the rune prison on Rise is just random, and I don't like it. Sejuani, E base damage decreased. R storm slow decreased. Base damage 30 to 90 scaling to 20 to 80 scaling. This isn't something that, again, you're going to feel that much. Sejuani is picked inside of the jungle. Damage like this doesn't impact her dramatically, and due to the nature of how she ganks and what ends up happening when she ganks, locking you up, stunning you, freezing you, whatever, these numbers are minuscule in the grand scheme of things. Our Glacial Prison, however, Storm Explosion, slow duration 3 seconds to 1 second. It's really big, especially because the champion keeps getting hit over and over and over. Trundle, E cooldown increased, E slowdown decreased at early ranks, increased at later ranks. Pillar of Ice, 22 to 14 seconds to 24 to 16 seconds, seems really random. Slow percent, 30 to 50%, 15 to 55%. So the slow doesn't really matter. This isn't why you use the Pillar of Ice. The 15% actually missing from it super early on is something that you definitely will feel, and so that really sucks. The increased cooldown doesn't really matter because you're only casting it once early on anyway, because Trundle is a jungler. What I mean by that is that you don't have to worry about the fact that, oh, I have to wait 2 more seconds to cast another pillar, because when you're ganking as Trundle, you're never casting 2 pillars. So this doesn't actually do anything. This does absolutely nothing. Maybe in a very small amount of games, you maybe feel the 2 seconds at 16 and 14. The thing that you definitely will feel is the 15% right here. Vayne, Q cooldown increased or decreased at early ranks, so 6 to 2 second scaling to 4 to 2 second scaling. Now, let me explain something to people that are like, wow, this is such a big Vayne buff. No, it's not a fucking Vayne buff. Vayne maxes Q first, I believe, right? I think that Vayne maxes Q first. And because Vayne maxes Q first, you do not magically get the ability to trade against opponents inside of the laning phase, and you can just tumble around and just go everywhere and, you know, yada, yada, yada. So anyways, with that being said, you have to look at level 5. So level 5 is 4 versus 3. So there's 1 second shaved off. 1 second can be big. It can be felt inside of the ult. But it's not like Kassadin's 1 second. Kassadin's 1 second is dramatic because of the way that Kassadin engages. Kassadin, for some people that might have been watching previous patch rundowns, just recently had 1 second shaved off of his ult. Due to the nature of how he returns back to the lane, using the Rift Walk to get back to lanes quicker, and, you know, it helps him with minion wave manipulation or not being punished as hard for maybe a bad recall or whatever, but it also dramatically helps him with those mid-game team fights until he gets to the rank 2 ultimate, because it essentially gives him CDR that he didn't previously have access to. Vayne is not always going to be able to utilize the 1 second off of the tumble. And then obviously at the later ranks, it's virtually negligible. It's almost like the Zoe 0.25. So with that being said, this doesn't do anything. You'll never feel these two. You will sometimes feel this right here. You will sometimes feel the level 5 change. Realistically, this is not what Vayne is. This is not one of the reasons that Vayne is being held back from competitive play, and this is a complete placebo buff. Victor, first hex score upgrade, cost decreased. I tweeted at, I want to say Riot Maple? Was that his ID? I tweeted at him. I never ended up getting a reply, which was actually quite unfortunate, about Victor. If you go into sandbox mode and you test out what this actually means for Victor, if you CS perfectly, which is something that pro players and high MMR players can do, this is not a buff. Because what ends up happening is that all this allows you to do is purchase a control ward. Because the problem is that you end up recalling with about 1,215 gold anyway. So you factor in the fact that you have to wait for the 8-second recall, wait for your mana and HP to come back, and then you end up affording the hex score. The only change that this ends up granting is that you're allowed to purchase a control ward. If you don't have perfect CS and you've missed maybe, 2 to 3 minions, the incoming minion wave at 430 is not the cannon wave. So you're likely going to end up staying for that wave anyway so that you can recall on the cannon wave, so that if you time your recall accurately, the cannon goes into the turret, you only end up missing 1 melee minion, you get back to the lane, you E it, you get all the CS. So with that being said, this is a completely bullshit buff. It's so sickening that they could do so many things to make Victor just potentially viable. I had a notepad open of suggested buffs that you could do. Let me tell you why Victor sucks right now. Victor sucks because his ultimate sucks. Victor sucks because the ult is actually too slow in order for the ticks to be of any use. Victor sucks because the change to Rylai's and the fact that Riot didn't adjust his Aftershock Death Ray. Because Aftershock Death Ray used to be 0.6 seconds. They bumped it up to 1 second entirely, but then the Rylai's nerf came through and Victor can't ever land the second goddamn laser unless the opponent's inside of a fucking coma. Then what they end up doing is they give him a lot of shield inside of his Q and they make his Q a little bit more oppressive. But the problem is that he's still missing a lot of damage because AP items overall just suck entirely. And because the Rylai's change. So he had his items hit, he had his runes hit. Okay, you can take Electrocute on him. It's still worse than it was before. Yeah, you can proc it a little bit more often due to the nature of how Victor trades, but it doesn't still stop the problem that Victor's mid-game wake-up is inherently weaker than it ever was in the past. His gravity field's a fucking joke. His R, no one cares about it, again, once it's been cast. So I don't know why they don't do something as simple as maybe adding 10 points of damage per rank into his Z, so 50 damage at rank 5, and then you shift around some of the AP ratios in his E and his R. You can easily shift the AP ratio in his R to, front load the damage. You can make the Aftershock Death Ray go from 0. So old Victor it was 0.6, current Victor it's 1.0. You can bring it back to 0.8. That way Rylai's doesn't feel absolutely terrible. You can change the numbers in his gravity field to not be a laughing stock and bump them up and make it end at roughly the same amount. Sort of like how, we see stuff like this in the Renekton. You could easily do something like this to Victor's gravity field. And this is kind of a sensitive topic. And the reason that I say that it's a sensitive topic isn't because I'm like a Victor enthusiast or anything, but it's more so because Victor is a very beautifully designed champion in the sense that he rewards outplaying your opponent, he rewards good play, he's a control mage, he has abilities to be oppressive, he has very, very flexible build paths, he has creative ways that he can be utilized inside of the mid game and even inside of the early game if you want to get a little bit tricky with his builds. He's a very nice champion, I think, to have inside of the meta, as long as he's not giga over oppressive in the sense that he just casts an E and you lose all of your life or something. But that's not the Victor that I'm suggesting that be brought back. I really do like that they gave him versatility with his Q shield. I like that, the mana thing that they gave him and whatnot. I like all of that. I think that Victor can be more versatile. They just need to give him a little bit more damage back. And maybe in Season 9 he ends up seeing that. But I don't know. Anyways, Smite auto-select. That's great. Minimap icons, bug fixes. Don't care about that. Skins, I'm going to get to this in a second. So, before I get to the skins, I want to say that patch 8.19 will be the World's patch. We will not be seeing any major impactful changes, given that I think that Riot has stated many times that they do not want to have major impactful changes on a Worlds patch because you don't want to end up having like what happened that year with Mordekaiser. And so what's going to happen is that when you're watching LCK finals, NA finals, you're watching China, this is basically the meta that we've been in now for, I would say, over a month. And it's going to be the same exact meta that is going to plague us for another month, month and a half. The game state is okay, but it's also very stale. And it's so stale that trash tier champions are actually being picked again in competitive. And that's a little bit unfortunate. And I think that trash champions are being picked again in competitive because the amount of practice that people are going to have on other champions is going to be limited. And then you end up having these weird abominations show up inside of competitive games. So Worlds is going to be an interesting thing. I think that the meta, truthfully, is kind of boring. I think that some champions are glaringly just more powerful than others, and they need to be given a lot more attention by all teams going into play-ins or group stages and whatever. And really, I can't wait for patch 8.20 or 8.21. And the reason that I say that is because with how the patches have been the last couple of months, it's been very, very, very sad. I'm not excited to look at a patch rundown. A patch rundown, to me, in the past, used to be like a new expansion coming out in Hearthstone or a new expansion coming out in Magic the Gathering, where you would get that feeling or that excitement of, oh my god, what new thing is going to be inside of this? And instead, it's sort of like you sit down and you're opening the same cards in every pack, and it just gets so boring and so repetitive so quickly. And I saw a clip, I guess, of Riot August responding that he thought that overbuffing champions and then hotfixing them was actually a good idea, but Riot's worried to do that because the community will call them idiots. I don't think the community will call them idiots. I think the community are going to call them idiots no matter what the fuck they do. And I really am curious how much interaction Riot has with the pro player base. And the reason that I've been vocal about this is because people will, they'll comment to me, they'll write in YouTube comments or they'll write in Reddit comments or whatever, that LS can't just care about the pro player base, you fucking Korea boo. And I just sit here and I'm like, you don't know about the majority. Because technically they're right? Reddit does not make up the majority of the player base. Reddit does not make up the people that casually play, never post, they never tune into streams, they never voice their opinion on either the boards or on a Reddit thread or anything like that. They're right. But they cannot then assert that these same people are then complaining or they're concerned with the direction that the game is going. That's just total fucking bullshit. Okay? I'm a person that I queue up for a Hearthstone arena maybe once a month or something. I just like to have a little bit of fun. All right? If I log in and I see that a card's changed, it doesn't mean fucking shit to me. I don't give a goddamn fucking... I can't care less that a card just got changed. I know that there are pros that care. I know that there's probably a reason that card just got changed, and that will maybe affect the pro player base. I can't give a fucking shit about that. All I want to do is just log in and play my goddamn arena because I don't care about anything else. The same way that I don't think that a silver player is going to notice the 2 seconds on Vayne's tumble. The same way that I refuse to believe that a gold or a silver player is going to masturbate to the fucking Victor change. The same way that fucking people probably forgot that, Renekton was a champion. I refuse to believe that the majority who are not vocal, who are not voicing their opinions, are actually concerned with these absolutely super small buffs that really don't do anything for their MMR, but they do eventually build up and do dramatic things for the pro MMR and the high MMR. And that's my major concern. I really, really hope that Riot will just eventually start being like, you know what, fuck this. We're going to mega buff one champion, and if he's too broken, we're going to hotfix him. They could have done that they could have done it with Victor, right? Leading right into Worlds. They could have just done like the changes that I just hypothetically suggested. And Worlds would have came around, Victor would have been picked. Would he have been broken? No, he would not be broken. Would he be picked? Absolutely he would be picked, because he's getting fucking picked now because of how goddamn stale mid lane is. Alright? But it wouldn't make him broken. It would just be like Kindred. And Kindred's even a champion that, despite coming back, is not some monster. She's not some, you know, oh, we have to pick Kindred, we have to do this. And that's good, that's healthy. Even look at Talia. Talia, yes, I know that Talia got some nerfs or whatnot, but Talia was allowed to stabilize and be figured out, and you know, people got more comfortable playing against Talia and dealing with, you know, her roots and how she would interact with the gameplay and how she played out certain 2v2s and what she was capable of. And then, just like any brokenly disgusting champion that can exist for enough time, people adapt, they learn to play around it, and then no one thinks that it's that broken anymore. And in gross cases where a champion continuously is actually overpowered and broken and everyone's voicing concerns about it, okay, then maybe that's time to do a hotfix. But anyways, patch 8.18, not really feeling that good about it. So I hope that you guys just took in, please, Riot August, just buff it, just overbuff a champion. Oh God, please. Anyways, let's talk about the skins. So there's the new skins. They have the Odyssey, Yasuo. This is, you'd find them on Grindr. Odyssey Jinx. I feel like that doesn't look like Jinx. I feel like this is like a Lux skin or something. I don't really know what to say about that. Odyssey Sona. Please God, no. This doesn't even look like Sona. This looks like a new champion. It almost feels like it could be a new champion, but anyways, whatever. Odyssey Malphite. This looks like the fucking Hills Have Eyes or something. What the? Don't ever watch that movie if you haven't watched it. Odyssey Ziggs. He is a good dentist. That's my first impression. Is this guy's dental hygiene is out of this world. Okay? Those are some really good teeth. Those are some fantastic teeth. And look at how big that mouth is. You know what they say about big mouths. Now, let's look at Kayn. So, Odyssey Kayn, I can't really actually tell what's going on here. So I guess that's Rost, and then that's Shadow Kayn. I don't know what's happening here, but something really did concern me with this patch. Chromas, Odyssey Yasuo, Odyssey Jinx, Sona, Malphite, and Ziggs. And I'm sitting here, and, you know, I get a phone call, and I'm like, yeah, hello, Riot? Where's Kayn? They're like, well, you know, we're a small indie company, and, you know, it dawned upon us that if we were to make a chroma for Kayn, that would require us to also make, you know, chromas for Rost, and being the small indie company that we are, we just can't afford to do that at this current point in time. And I'm like, oh, okay, all right. So, I don't care that Kayn's a legendary. What, legendaries can't have chromas? Doesn't even make sense. Oh, no chromas for legendary skins until... Oh, really? Today I learned. Thank you, Twitch chat. Alright, that's it for patch 8.18. Please, for the love of God, buff some champions.